Welcome to the Leavine Family Racing podcast, where we're going to take you behind the scenes and get you up to speed on all things 95.
All right, welcome back. This is episode 5 of the Leavine Family Racing podcast. We are joined this week by Michael Leavine. Michael, your title is Vice President of Racing Operations.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yep.
So Michael's somebody who has been with the race team since it started, obviously, all the way back in 2011. We put out this week that our 10-year anniversary logo. So that is going to be on the nose of every single one of the cars we run this weekend. I think that's a pretty cool logo. Kind of pays tribute to the Texas heritage with the original logo. So describe, we said Vice President of Racing Operations. Describe to the audience what your role consists of.
That's a great question. I think there's a lot of people who would like to know that, right? So essentially my role this year will be kind of more big picture. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be focusing a lot on our relationship as a team with NASCAR, our relationship with Joe Gibbs with this expanded technical alliance, really heading up a lot of those efforts. I'm going to be focusing a lot on getting our team ready for the Next Gen Car that launches in 2021. Yeah. I've been in a lot of the meetings with NASCAR, with suppliers and a lot of those things. So, and then essentially still having to focus on 2020 and day-to-day operations, making sure guys like Wheels and Jason have what they need, and Christopher has the tools he needs to go race. So, that's the bulk of what I'm doing now. It's more kind of big picture and overall guidance, relationships. I'm not getting my hands dirty anymore. I don't get to turn wrenches anymore. Just kind of big picture stuff.
So you mentioned Mike Wheeler and Jason Ratcliffe, right? Because you've seen so much of the progression of this race team and how far it's come in the last couple of years. What is it like to have people with the experience and the winning history? Like, what does Mike Wheeler bring to the table? What does Jason Ratcliffe bring to the table, right? Not even like number stuff, but just like the mentality of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it brings a huge level of experience, right? These guys have been doing this for a long time as well. So you have these two guys who, one is much more engineering focused, one is much more kind of the old school crew chief. Both have done the role, and now we're putting them together in a room and saying, all right, make the absolute best thing you can,
right? And
it's working. You know, I mean, we've gone to Daytona, we've put together our best qualifying effort ever, with just stellar results. So it's about the experience and the knowledge that those two bring that cover each other. Right. That's where having these two guys has really elevated our program, is the level of engineering experience with Wheels, and then the level of just organizational, long time crew chief with Jason. This, not to take anything away from one or the other, but they both have their strengths. They both have their weaknesses. And these two really complement each other really well.
So, and I assume too, right, in an effort to kind of educate people about this race team, having them come from JGR and running Toyotas for years, where this is only our second year as part of the TRD program, I imagine that helps immensely,
they have a lot of the relationships already there with the other crew chiefs. They know how Gibbs does things. There are things we've pulled from our past that we're doing that's a little different from Gibbs, and that, Gibbs looks at and evaluates if they want to incorporate that or not. So it's anytime you get a mixture of different backgrounds, you can kind of pull the best of both worlds, right? And that's what we're able to do with those two. We can say, all right, here's the best things about Joe Gibbs Racing. And then our background with RCR and with Penske before that, we can also pull some of the bests of their worlds and say, hey, these are some of the things some of the processes and how we assembled things that are a little easier, a little more foolproof or whatever, and it makes both organizations a little bit stronger.
Right.
Anytime you're bringing in different mentalities. And that's why a lot of times you'll see teams go grab crew chiefs from other teams because they're looking for that injection of fresh ideas. There's a lot to be said for promoting within, but promoting within doesn't always spur creativity. Sometimes you need those outside ideas to really gain ground.
This might be a dumb question, right? But I'm on the front office side of this, right? Not even the side of the office. I'm on the other side of the street, right? You guys are across the street from the Speedway, and we're on the opposite side of the Speedway. How much does fresh ideas really get used in this sport, right? Like for me,
you'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I look at the rule book and I see how tight the inspection process is on a week-to-week basis, and not even going into the, who's fudging the rules and who's not, right? But what does fresh ideas really inject into a race team? Is it just some of them work, some of them don't? Like, is it something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's some things that work, some things that don't. Sometimes it's focus areas, right? Yeah. So just take the aero department, for example. Some of the things that Joe Gibbs focuses on were things that RCR didn't, and vice versa. Right. And that's not to say that one is better than the other per se. Mm-hmm. Now, if you do it the right way, they should both lead to good results.
Right.
Gibbs has shown that they have a better aero department. Our aero program has taken a large step forward since this expanded technical alliance and seeing the latest, greatest information now. Mm-hmm. We went from qualifying, 28th last year, I think it was,
something like that,
to 9th. Yeah. So you can see the difference in our aero program already, right, just from getting these expanded notes from JGR. Some things that we didn't take into account before. Right. No different than there were times last year that Wheels would be thinking a certain way on the box, and sometimes just interjecting that, hey, from past experience with RCR, this mattered. Yeah. And all of a sudden you could see the car make a change. Yeah. And it's just those different mentalities and focus points. None of them are necessarily good or bad, better or worse per se, but it sometimes when you start combining some of these different focuses together, you start seeing it compound into, if we really take thing A from this program and thing B from this program and put them together, there's some synergy to that. Now let's really go down that path and see what gains we can make. And I think some of the gains we made late in the year last year were part of that.
Right. To me, it's kind of like, because again, we joke almost every week, I'm the baby, right? I'm the young kid. For me, it's almost like, hearing you say that, it's almost like doing a group project or something, right? Doing that like almost every week, where sometimes you've got somebody who's got strengths in certain departments or certain racetracks and something like, and you got somebody who might not be as strong at certain places, but it's having those fresh ideas, or even, getting up and walking away from it and clearing your head for a minute and then coming back and bringing that, I don't even want to call it intensity, but just kind of that like refreshed motivation to come back and put the best product possible out on the racetrack, right?
Yeah, and it's why there's, we have Jason, Wheels, Booty Barker, ETN, JR, our engineers. It's why we have so many people working on this, because one person cannot come up with every great idea.
Right. And it's 38 weekends. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's not easy.
It is a long season, and burnout is a real thing. Yeah. So it's about having a lot of smart people in the room, because anyone could come up with the great idea. Yeah. So being able to pull in really talented people, we effectively have 3 crew chiefs in the building.
Right.
That's the most depth we've ever had. Yeah. And it allows for a lot more creativity. Yeah. Because one guy doesn't have to do everything.
Yeah. I'm curious too. We've talked about Wheels and Radcliffe, and they're obviously some more of the leadership side of the race team, right? You look at the road crew as a whole, though. What, to the people that don't understand, including me, right? What is the role of like Jason with the crew chief with Greg, our car chief, and how does that kind of reverberate throughout the team?
So it's like having a captain versus a sergeant, right? Yeah. You look at Jason. Jason's the decision maker. Mm-hmm. He's the one who's going to say, "I want this setup on the car."
Right.
Greg is the one that executes it. Mm-hmm. So he is the one, Jason or JR, or, the engineering group will bring out a sheet to Emmer. And as car chief, Greg's role is to look at that sheet of changes, assign it to each guy, and make sure that everything gets done. Yeah. It's also Emmer's job to make sure we pass tech.
Right.
So he will go through tech 4 potentially 3 to 4 times voluntarily in a weekend, just to make sure that the changes we're making on the engineering side are still going to pass tech.
Right.
And so it's his job to, okay, we went through and this part of the body's red. It's his job to work with the guys and push and pull and get that part of the body back legal. And so he's the guy who executes all the orders and assigns them to the individual guys who all have their strengths, right? You have a tire guy. The tire guy tends to work a little more closely with the crew chief, not so much right directly through the car chief.
Right.
But your shock guy goes through the car chief, your interior guy, front end guy, underneath guy.
Yeah.
All those guys report straight through Greg, the car chief. So that then there's kind of that one line of communication. It's this guy telling the car chief, hey, get this done. And then it's the car chief telling the crew chief, yes, it's done. We're ready.
Right. Okay. No, that is very informative, right? So we're going to jump back into something you mentioned at the beginning of this when we were talking about your role within the race team, the next gen. What can you tell us, without getting us in trouble, about the next gen car?
So it's going to be a radically different platform than what we currently have. There's going to be major aerodynamic changes, major mechanical changes. And like I said, I'm going to kind of dance around it a little bit because I don't know 100% of what has been made public. I do remember that there are test dates coming up at the end of the year that were made public.
We've seen a couple of them, right? With Logano and I think Austin did.
Yeah, and they've been testing a prototype car already.
Yep.
Austin did the first one at Richmond. That went well. Still some bugs to work out, but that's what a prototype's for, right?
Right.
Then they turn around. Logano took it to Phoenix. That test went better.
Yeah.
And they still had some things to work on and massage on. And then Eric Jones took it to Homestead, right? And that Homestead test, they had to work on some things because it was the first time taking it to a 1.5 mile track.
Yeah.
But overall, it was successful, and they were able to tune on the car, find speed. It's not going to be this car that you show up and you can't make changes and you can't do things to it. I think people are scared of this spec thing,
right?
But it's really not spec in the sense of what people think spec means.
Yeah.
Yes, there are going to be a lot of common parts. Bodies are not going to be common. Your suspension settings are not going to be common. Your shocks and springs are not going to be common.
Right.
There's still going to be a lot of places for us to work on setups and tuning and racing each other on the track instead of in manufacturing.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing that I think is going to help the sport overall is we're going to get away from teams having to be also manufacturers.
Yeah.
We're going back to the stock car side of the sport where I go buy part A from vendor A.
Right.
I don't make it. I don't try and redesign it and hire all these CNC guys and all these design engineers. No, I go buy that part and then I focus on the absolute best setup and the absolute best strategy that I can. And I think it'll be interesting to see. I do believe strategy is going to matter again.
Yeah.
Because it's going to even the playing field where people are going to make the difference, not parts making the difference.
Right. Hearing you describe it like that, it almost seems to me like it's I don't know if more pure form of racing, right? Where it's not as much about who has the biggest paycheck, right? Or who has the biggest pocketbook. It's more about who's got the best setups. Is that kind of the sense you get?
Yes, I think so. There's still going to be a lot of places for us to spend money and try and outspend each other. But again, I think a lot of it is going to focus on having the better people.
Yeah.
I do believe having, better engineers, better crew chiefs, better assembly guys where you have less failures. Those are going to be the things that matter versus just buying the best parts.
Right.
And that's good for some, worse for others.
Yeah.
But I think overall, in terms of the big picture for the sport, I think this is going to be a very good change for us.
See, that's exciting for me to hear, right? Because you look at this, it's a professional sport.
Yes.
When Jeremy was on here, he joked that he has to remind himself sometimes, like, we are a professional sports team. And I think when you look at other professional sports, so much of it is based on the quality of the people, of the quality of the athletes, right? Not necessarily, obviously, you've got your salaries and your caps and all that kind of good stuff, right? But what gets decided in between the lines of the game is the people, right? Yes. And this changes with NASCAR puts us, I think, more in line with you depend on people more than you just depend on straight up cash.
Yeah, right now it would be like if every baseball team got to manufacture their own baseballs and manufacture their own bats and all those kind of things, and that it became more about the manufacturing than about the ball player.
Right.
We're getting away from that, and that's where in, like Jeremy said, in terms of a professional sport, we're getting back to the part that actually should matter, which is the people. Having the better performers, athletes, that's where I think people want to see racing go.
Yeah.
We have always been different, because even back in the true stock car days, when you were buying a car out of the dealership and putting it on the racetrack, there were differences in horsepower, there were differences in downforce. And then you got into the Twisted Sister era where we were custom building chassis and there were almost no rules on the body. And that's when we really started to go a lot more towards the route of good equipment mattered more than good people.
Right.
Now, again, it's you have to have those smart people who can make the better control arm and the better steering link and all these things, right? But at the end of the day, it's the part that matters. It's about that guy designing a better part, not that guy outperforming his equivalent over across the table.
Yeah. I think it's great. It's so we've seen a couple times in the last, 15 years now, where the COT has come out, right? Yep. What is this we're on now? Gen 6? This is Gen 6. So next gen is Gen 7. Do you get a sense that as our person on the inside of all these discussions, right? Do you get the sense that, because the COT was great with some things, it was awful in some things. This car is great in some things, it's awful in some other things. Do you get a sense that NASCAR's really learning and, taking, I don't want to say taking notes, right? But you have to assume that the hiccups and everything that came along with the COT and the Gen 6, we should see less of with the Gen 7.
I absolutely believe that's the case. Yeah. I mean, they're not just learning from their previous generation changes, but even from their other series.
Right.
Some of the learnings that they're going to apply to this in terms of the bodies, they're taking from the Xfinity side when they push them towards composite bodies. They're taking the learnings from that and how sometimes I won't say inaccurate, but the wide variance in the body panels that are supposed to be stamped and identical, but because it's something different than metal, there's a wider tolerance, allowable tolerance. And so then guys were buying more parts to find the best part.
Yeah.
And so it didn't actually end up saving anybody money. They're taking their learnings from that process so that they believe the Cup side should have much lower tolerance parts, where we're not going to see a wide range and we're not going to go buy 9 right rear quarter panels to find the one that is the best in the wind tunnel.
Yeah.
Now, again, this is all theory, but I believe that these guys are smart enough to take notes, learn from previous mistakes. I think even NASCAR will admit that the COT car did certain things really well. It was a major step in safety innovation.
Yeah, absolutely.
The aero side, which everyone was an overreaction to fans.
Yeah.
Fans were tired of seeing these cars that were all twisted up and these bodies that had no rules. And so they went 100% the other direction, and now everybody has the exact same body.
Right.
And it's just a decal package that differentiates it.
Yep.
They realized that was a major misstep and set the sport back. And that's when now we're going to go to Gen 6, which was not a chassis change. It wasn't a suspension change, strictly bodies. And they found this happy middle ground where OEMs have individual identity,
right,
and they're all within an allowable number in terms of downforce, drag, things of that nature to keep us all competitive still.
Right.
And that's what they're going to carry into the next gen car, is that these cars will have individual identities. They're going to look a little different than our current cars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not going to see the Camry of today look the same as whatever Toyota's going to roll out, right? If they stay with the Camry, it's not going to look the same. These bodies are going to be more symmetrical. They're not going to be, you know, if you look at the rear of one of these cars, even if a team hung it exactly where NASCAR told us to, the tail's offset.
Right.
That's not going to be the case with this next car. You're going to see a rear diffuser on these cars. That's something we don't currently have at all.
Right.
It's all in an effort to allow individual identity, but help with the aero problems we see today with a trailing car losing a tremendous amount of downforce in the wake.
Right.
So these are all geared to try and fix some of the issues we even saw in 2019 with the high downforce package, high drag package. It's all steps to try and fix these things.
I got you. All right. We're going to totally switch gears here.
All right.
We are going to talk about the NASCAR League. That was something we were involved in this past season.
Yep.
Right. Gaming is a passion of yours. I know it's in your Twitter bio. You love to game. We do streaming. What, in your mind, with the NASCAR League, what's the next step? What's the future for it? We saw season 1. It was good. Definitely room for improvement, right? What, in your mind, is the next step for it?
Yeah, and that's where I think the NASCAR Heat League, which is the console-based one, right?
Yep.
That one is kind of on a precipice of it could either go the right way and be very successful, or it could go the wrong way and go down a cliff.
Right.
In all reality, there's a lot that could go wrong with this season 2. That being said, for us, the next step is go win the championship.
Right.
You know, we had 2 excellent drivers last year. The rule change is forcing us to drop one. But there's no reason we can't go either bring that guy back if he's available, or, you know, find somebody better if there's not, you know, if he doesn't want to come back.
Yep.
And we haven't had the talks internally of which guy we're going to keep and which guy we're going to drop. But at the end of the day, we have to play by their rules.
Right.
But I still believe we can find the best people out there and go dominate this league.
Yeah.
From there, if this is successful, you know, I could really see this taking off and being an opportunity to, you know, we have these development series for drivers. I could very much see this being a development series for sponsors.
Yeah.
Where companies are able to come in, test the waters, see what it's like to be a sponsor of LFR or LFG, and hopefully grow it into something that spans both sides.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of potential. There are a lot of viewers in the esport world as a whole. And I think the E-Heat League is poised to take advantage of that.
Right.
I also think one of the next steps eventually will be to get into iRacing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's another division that LFG needs to be a part of.
Right.
From there, the world's open. We can go get into other motorsports. You know, we don't have to restrict ourselves to just NASCAR. So years down the road, I would love to see LFG become multi-race series, and maybe not even in racing, maybe in some other esports.
Yeah. Right. It's, to me, the thing with esports that's interesting, right? And this might fall more under the iRacing side of it. But when you talk about other sports, right, it's you can go play baseball. You can go play basketball. You have to have a certain you have to have a car. It's not nearly as easy to just pick up and go racing, right? Video games, in my mind, whether it's console or iRacing, it's kind of the vehicle might be the bad pun when we're talking about racing, right? But it is the vehicle to give people a glimpse into what it's like to compete in racing, right? You can't go down the street and pick up a basketball, and it's not the same in racing, right? So that's something I've always looked at with iRacing as very cool and something we need to NASCAR as a whole. And I think LFR is doing a great job of, obviously I'm going to say that I work for LFR, but they've done a great job of trying to get on the front end of it, right? Not play catch up on this movement. All right, we're going to finish the podcast the same way I've finished every interview with Jeremy and with Bob. We're going to do rapid fire questions.
Oh, boy.
All right? You have not been prepped on any of these.
I have not.
So just hit me with whatever comes to the top of your head.
This could be dangerous.
Yep. Favorite athlete of all time?
Oh, Edwin van der Sar.
Who?
Edwin van der Sar, goalkeeper for Manchester United for years.
Okay.
I grew up playing soccer.
Okay.
I was a goalie.
Yep.
As part of that, I studied him.
Yeah.
I mean, would watch what he would do in goal. So, yeah, well, I mean, one of my favorites. De Gea, current goalkeeper for Manchester United, also probably up there.
Very cool.
I'm a soccer guy.
There you go.
And I knew you weren't going to know any of the names.
Yeah, it's all right. Bob hit me with two pitchers from like the 1960s that I'd never heard of before. So
let's see. I probably know. Well, I'm blanking on them now.
Drysdale.
And
somebody else from the Dodgers.
Yep.
I can't remember who.
He's got a picture of him hanging in his office. Actually,
sorry, Bob.
Koufax. That's right. It was Sandy Koufax.
Favorite travel destination?
Ooh, wow. Probably St. Martin.
Okay.
Down in the islands.
Is that the boat trip? Is that
it's one of the places we've gone on a boat trip. Yeah. Just beautiful beaches, like true white sand, clear water.
Yeah.
Super relaxing. Nice little burger bar there on the beach we go to.
So, like, if you've got a vacation, beach rather than like international travel, or what would you say a preference is?
I don't know if I have a preference because I've gone down to the islands a good bit. I've been over to England. I'd love to go back.
Yeah.
Went over to Manchester for a Manchester United game.
Right.
I'd love to do that again. I'd love to go see London, Spain. Go see a Bundesliga game.
Bundesliga. It's a fun
over
word.
in yeah. So yeah, there's a I don't know. I don't think I have a preference.
That's all right. Vacation's vacation, right? Favorite musical act?
Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
Yep.
You serious?
Yes.
Did you listen to Bob's podcast?
No.
Same.
But I went to the show with him.
Okay, there we go. Same thing as Bob. Bob loves Mamma Mia.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
So is that like a family thing?
Yeah. So, man, how old was I? I was in high school.
Yeah.
We went to Vegas.
Yeah.
It was me, Bob, Sharon, Melinda.
Yeah.
And I think my dad, or he might have stayed home with the kids. We went to Vegas to go see Mamma Mia.
Man, that's funny.
And it was incredible.
That's amazing.
Probably followed a close second by Wicked, which Kenda and I saw here in Charlotte.
There you go. That's funny.
Oh, we love plays and musicals. Yeah, we love it.
It's interesting to me that it resonates with Bob, and then it resonates with you as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's two totally different generations. That's something. Favorite TV show?
Oh, wow. I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll give you a YouTube group.
Yeah, go for it.
Achievement Hunter.
Okay.
Or the Let's Play group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like you said, I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
I like watching other people play video games. I think it's funny. It's why we stream.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy it. I enjoyed watching it so much. I thought it'd be fun to do.
Yeah. What sports teams do you keep up with? This is off the beaten path.
Off the beaten path. Not a rapid fire.
No,
all right.
Just freewheeling.
Dallas Mavericks.
Okay.
Texas Rangers.
There you go. Seeing a trend.
Yeah. Yep. I'm a Texas guy.
Yeah.
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Manchester United.
Yeah.
How
did you get into soccer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was something my mom had me do when I was like 4 or whatever the early age is for kids to play. And I just kind of latched onto it. I was a 3-sport athlete for most of high school. Played soccer, football, and baseball. Yeah. So I played football in the fall, winter, soccer in the winter, and baseball in the spring.
I gotcha.
Did track a couple times. The swimming coach would beg me to come swim for her.
There you
go. Cross country coach would beg me to come run cross country, but there was only so much time between all that. And then I was a stagehand and set builder for the drama team.
Okay.
And I did a year of orchestra. I did 4 years of drumline. Yeah. So I kind of did everything, but soccer has just always stuck with me. Like I am way stoked that David Teppers got the MLS team here in Charlotte. Yeah. My wife already has a season tickets or a deposit on season tickets. Like I'm ready.
That's exciting.
I am all in.
That's cool. It's something that you've been such a fan of for your entire life, and now it's finally coming to your backyard.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
we took you up to games up 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how much I enjoy soccer. We got season tickets to a team up in Cary, 2 hours from here.
Yeah.
So now that it's coming here to our backyard, I'm stoked.
That's awesome.
It's cool.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's all I got. I appreciate you coming over here and taking the time to do this.
Thanks for having me, Dano.
I think we'll be back in another 2 weeks. We'll do another episode. So thank you all for watching. See you soon.